So I really wish that politics wasn't so petty, so tit for tat, so back and forth, so everything that it is right now. People on the conservative right, they preach and whine about cancel culture and so forth, and yet they engage in it themselves. My fellow conservatives really need to take a hard look and confront their hypocrisies on this matter. Yes, it's obnoxious when somebody on the left either cries racism, sexism, misogynyism, transphobia-ism, or just doesn't like somebody because of differences of opinion, and then they screech and cry and try and get that person fired or whatever. Yes, that's obnoxious. And people on the right should not do the same thing. They shouldn't do the same thing, especially since they talk about how, people have a right to work. Part of being a conservative is the idea that anybody who doesn't break the law can work for a wage and maintain their standard of living, whether or not you agree with them politically or socially or culturally or whatever. And conservatives on the right who have canceled Colin Kaepernick, who are now canceling Chrissy Teigen, who have canceled this person or that person. I get it. Conservatives probably aren't as bad about it, but they do it nonetheless. Well, you can't cancel somebody and boycott them and then talk about cancel culture. We really need to stop that. Conservatism at its core is about, running and ordering and directing your own life and letting others do the same and leaving people in peace. There's a little bit of the Jeffersonian liberal idea in there. Jefferson said, if it neither harms my person nor picks my pocket, there doesn't need to be a law against it. And that's a rough paraphrase, but there's a bit of the Jeffersonian liberal in true conservatives, which make conservatives who want to be left alone in peace and Jeffersonian classical liberals like Bill Maher allies in the ridiculous culture wars that are going on right now. So Chrissy Teigen is a person, she might be a very dreadful person. I don't know her personally. 10 years ago on Twitter, I don't understand why any celebrity thinks it's a good idea to be on Twitter and say stupid things. But there you go. 10 years ago, she told a 16-year-old woman to go kill herself. And apparently she's a mean girl and other wealthy, famous, good-looking women on Twitter. Who cares? Chrissy Teigen doesn't affect my life. She never has affected my life and never will affect my life. She's not going to come to Flint, Michigan and tell me to kill myself. And if she does, I'll probably brush it off my shoulder and move on with my life. Okay? And she doesn't need to apologize to me for being publicly stupid. She apologized to the one person. You can be glib about her apology, but she apologized to that one person and she tried to move on with her life. That's good enough for me. I don't think that she should be boycotted. She apparently has lost her product lines with Target and a few other things. I'm not going to walk into Target and say, this is endorsed by Chrissy Teigen. Back on the shelf you go. If somebody has a product that I like, I'm going to buy it, and I'm not going to boycott them. They have the right to be a dreadful person and make their money. Okay? The people in their lives that they hurt are the ones who owe apology. This idea that, we can do cancel culture too just because, they deserve these consequences. No, it's splitting hairs. There's semantics. Oh, Colin Kaepernick did this, and he disrespected. He has the right to disrespect your flag. He has the right to disagree with you politically and put his message out there. And just like I said earlier, his employer has the right to not employ him. And you have the right to misconstrue or construe or interpret his message exactly how you want to. But you also have the right to cancel him. I just don't think we should. Candace Owens, all the conservatives love Candace Owens because she's fiery and vitriolic, and she picks every battle, and she often wins wars of words. But Candace Owens is engaging in feuds with Chrissy Teigen and who's the WAP lady? The lady who sings about the moistness of her genitals. Cardi B. She engaged in a Twitter feud with Cardi B. What petty nonsense is this? You don't have to do that kind of stuff. You can let people make their money. I respect excellence in all its forms. I don't necessarily call Cardi B's music excellent, but Cardi B is making money off of her music. She could do that. She's not hurting me by talking about the moistness of her genitals. She's not hurting my children because I don't let my children listen to her music, just like Cardi B said you shouldn't do. But, so what's her face? Candace Owens is on TV talking about Chrissy Teigen's face looks like an inflated basketball. It was done for humor, but it was done in the context of criticizing her for her social justice warrior hypocrisy and so forth. I don't think that we should be social justice warriors. Social justice warriors are eventually going to have legal power behind their clout, and they're going to do all sorts of horrible things in the name of social justice. I've debated this with fellow conservatives. They throw the tit for tat argument at me, and I just say, hey, you should actually take satisfaction in the fact that you are not like them. You shouldn't play dirty like them. Because eventually, if we stop playing dirty like the insane leftists that have hijacked the Democratic Party, if we stop playing like them, their ridiculous shenanigans will be exposed and they will peter out and they will die out. But if we do this tit for tat constantly, well, that's going to become the new normal. And that's a terrible thing. Us canceling somebody and boycotting somebody who has nothing to do with my life. Chrissy Teigen has nothing to do with my life. Candace Owens has nothing to do with my life. Colin Kaepernick had nothing to do with my life. I liked the product that he put on the field, and because I can separate and compartmentalize people, I don't necessarily need him to be benched just because you think that he disrespected the flag and so forth. And people want to talk to me about, well, he's got endorsements and he's got Nike deals and social justice warrior, so forth. Colin Kaepernick is suffering. I understand it's not suffering like the normal everyday 9-to-5 worker suffers, but Colin Kaepernick is suffering. When you are not doing the job or the career that you want to do, there is suffering involved. It's not a lot, I get it, but there is suffering. He's not doing the job that he wants to do, and certainly he had consequences for that. But we don't need to continue to pile on him and keep him from that job. I don't like the social justice warrior message that the NFL is putting out, but I can tune that out and just watch the product on the field because I don't need human interest stories in order to attach to my desire to the product. And I can compartmentalize and remove it. I don't worship these guys, and I don't follow them as role models. So therefore, they can impregnate all the women that they want all around the country. I'm not going to emulate them, nor would I if I was in their position. I just like the product that they put in the field. So I know what it's like to suffer mentally because you're not in the career that you want to be. A few years ago, I had to quit teaching because I couldn't be part of a system that is just absolutely messing up this generation and be paid the ridiculously low wages that teachers are paid. So I got out of it. And I hope to go back to the teaching world someday. I hope to create a position for myself in it. But I'm suffering mentally because I'm not in the career that I want to be. I do deal with it. Okay, every day. I'm not depressed or discouraged because of it. I look toward the future with hope, but I know what it's like, what Colin Kaepernick is going through, at least in this area, because I'm not doing the job or the career that I want to do. There is a modicum of suffering that comes along with that. We don't need to continually keep him out of a job just because he quote unquote disrespected our flag or our troops, or whatever way you want to spin it. That's not true conservatism. Conservatism says I can run my life, you can run your own life, I can be a good person, you can be a dreadful person, or vice versa, and we can leave each other and live and let live. I just don't understand this new form of conservatism. I think actually it comes from Trump, because Trump thought that every single battle had to be fought, even if those battles had nothing to do with him. I think it comes from Trump, and honestly, I don't think that Trump is good for conservatives in the Republican Party. I don't necessarily call him all that conservative anyway. He didn't have all the markers of a true conservative, and he was boorish, and he was braggadocious, and he was loudmouth and so forth, and he talked about things that had nothing to do with him, and he picked battles that he really didn't need to pick. I think a guy in what is it going to be, 2024? I think that that would be better for the Republican Party is a guy like Ron DeSantis in Florida. Ron DeSantis right now is operating under the assumption that the people of his state know how to direct and order their own lives, and that they should be allowed to work and do this without bureaucratic intervention and ridiculous power grabbing. That's a guy who would be good for conservatives. That's a guy who would be good for the party. And certainly the man has an edge to him, but he only issues statements, at least as far as I know, he only issues statements to people that are in the political arena, and he stays in his lane. That's the kind of conservatism that I would vote for. If Trump runs again in 2020, I'm not going to vote for him. I didn't vote for him in 2016. I didn't vote for him in 2020. You can call me a rhino. I'm not a Republican. You can call me this, you call me that. But I reject any labels, because labels are just a shorthand way of us rejecting each other's arguments out of hand instead of actually carefully taking a look at them. Ellen DeGeneres is another person where people are just gleefully, bloodthirstily gloating about her losing her audience and so forth. Ellen DeGeneres has nothing to do with my life. She doesn't hurt me with her ways and her means. I couldn't care less that she's a lesbian. I couldn't care less that she's married to another lesbian. I happen to be a moral conservative and a Christian, but Ellen DeGeneres is actually a reasonable person who sat next to George Bush at the Super Bowl or something. Ellen DeGeneres is somebody who can sit and converse with somebody who disagrees with her, at least morally, certainly politically, and actually have a good time with them, because she might understand that you're a human first. If Ellen DeGeneres came and talked to me, I would be like, "You're a lesbian, I can't be friends with you." I wouldn't do all that. That's doing too much. I would recognize and give precedence to the fact that she's a fellow image bearer of God, and I would be pleasant, and I would be agreeable, and I would be loving, and I would be dignified in my interaction with her. But apparently she puts on a persona for her TV show, and apparently behind the scenes she's super mean to her staff. Let her be mean to her staff. She's already serving consequences by losing some of her audience, and now she's quitting her show and so forth and so forth. She has nothing to do with my life. She doesn't need to scrub her message for me, because I'm not a consumer of her product. She has a daytime talk show. I'm working during the daytime. She's mostly for stay-at-home parents. Okay, Ellen DeGeneres doesn't need to be canceled by me and my ilk, because she doesn't hurt me and my ilk, and she has nothing to do with me. Even if she advocated for laws that I disagree with or find reprehensible, she personally is not hurting me. And if we continue along this path of, well, they're doing it, and so I'm going to do it, well, that's going to be the tit for tat, eye for an eye is going to be the world that we live in, and where everybody is afraid to do anything edgy and to take a risk and must scrub their message for anybody and everybody, whether or not any and everybody is going to be a consumer of their message. So we got to stop that. That isn't true conservatism. Conservatism actually stays within, a true conservative stays within oneself and leaves others alone, and only pulls out the guns when somebody is harming them or stealing from them. Ellen DeGeneres, Chrissy Teigen, and all the other leftist liberals in Hollywood, they don't hurt me. And they make a pretty good product, many of them. I can separate their product from them as people. I'm thoroughly convinced that there's a psychological aspect to this cancel culture, and I'm willing to be corrected on it, because I don't know what people are thinking, but I do know how people think in general, and I think there's an aspect of control here. There's not a lot of things that normal people can control in their lives, and when they cancel somebody and make them serve consequences and so forth, there's a modicum of control that comes along with it, and it feels good. The other psychological aspect, and this is even more insidious, is the idea that this person is not living up to my standards of morality. It feels really good to adopt a standard of morality, a system of morality, and then point out how others fail to live up to it. And that's also not conservatism. Conservatism is about adopting a standard of morality and confronting your own transgressions, confronting your own sins, leaving others be to confront or not confront. So most conservatives are Christian, or they are at least amenable to the Christian ethic and the Christian economy for morality. And part of Christianity, a fundamental part of Christianity is the idea that sin and righteousness and all those things, they're very personal. They're between the person and God. So when somebody fails to live up to my morality system, I'm not going to point out their sin. That's like shooting dead fish in an empty barrel. If you go around this life pointing out sin, I'm going to confront my own sin, and if I offend or hurt somebody, I'm going to apologize and ask forgiveness from them, and for my totality of sins, I'm going to apologize and ask forgiveness from God, and leaving the rest be. Conservatives don't need the laws of the country that they live in to reflect their morality. They can live and have joy even if the country doesn't reflect the morality, or even worse, the country is openly aggressive and hostile and persecutes Christians. We can still have joy. And this cancel culture just isn't that. It's minding the business of everybody else. And my goodness, it makes social media and Twitter just the bane of our existence. And years from now, you will be able to draw a through line to this pervasive cancel culture to us becoming like China, where everybody has a social media score, and their social media score affects their ability to live at peace and in harmony with their government and with others, and get a job or get a pension or get this or get that. I don't want that. I don't want my government expanding to the point of what they have to do in China. I want my government leaving me alone. I am too dedicated, hardworking, motivated, and intelligent, and frankly stubborn to let my government run my life for me. So I'm perfectly all right taking L's in the political spectrum because a man like Donald Trump, who has very few trappings of a true conservative outside of the fact that he doesn't like abortion, I'm all right with him leaving office. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the consequences of that. And milquetoast leaders like Joe Biden will eventually be exposed for the knock-kneed weaklings that they really are, and paying homage to the radical left. And he'll take an L in some form or another. The other part of conservative Christianity is that if somebody doesn't see justice in this life, they're going to see justice in the next life. So I accept the fact that there's tremendous evidence to show that O.J. Simpson murdered his wife and her boyfriend. I accept the fact that he's probably guilty, but I also accept the fact that in the eyes of the law, he was found innocent. I understand our justice system isn't perfect. The reason it's not perfect is it's made up of humans. But in the eyes of the law, the man is free. Someday, that man's knee will bend and his tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. I don't need that man to see justice in this life, because he will see justice in the next. In fact, I would sit down to dinner with O.J. Simpson and converse with him on the level of he is a fellow image bearer of God, and I would give him dignity and grace because of that. Because some of the champions of my faith were adulterers, they were philanderers, they were murderers, they were this and they were that. And they were redeemed in spite of their horrific sins, just like I was redeemed in spite of my horrific sins. So cancel culture doesn't give dignity and grace to people who are maybe misguided. Remember back in the day when Kanye West accused George Bush of not caring about black people? And that conservatives boycotted and canceled him way back in the day. I accepted the fact that Kanye was an opinionated, extroverted, eccentric guy who occasionally says some dumb stuff. I saw a lot of myself in him, because I'm an opinionated, extroverted guy who says a lot of misguided and dumb stuff in his life. So I've been bumping to Jesus Walk and Gold Digger for the last 15, 16 years because the man made tremendous music, and I couldn't care less about his political affiliations. This cancel culture is so fleeting, too. It's so fickle and it's so fleeting because conservatives changed their tune when Kanye West started paling it up with Donald Trump and started, spouting off conservative talking points. We forgot about the fact that he accused the sitting president of the United States of extreme racism in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. We forgot about all that. Well, if you don't participate in the first place and you let people have their opinions and you consume their product if you like it and you don't consume their product if you don't like it, well then live and let live. I think the same thing about Michael Jackson. Just like O.J. Simpson, there's evidence to suggest that Michael Jackson committed atrocious, evil, wicked crimes. But he also added to the totality of amazing art in this world. And so I could consume his art without feeling triggered that at what he might have, but never was proven to have done. Because Michael Jackson right now has faced ultimate eternal justice, and his life has been tried, and whether he was redeemed or not redeemed, that's beyond my control. So conservatism, according to my understanding, is letting people be. And if they're found guilty or innocent in the eyes of the law, you have to live with that and live with the ramifications of that. It's not perfect, but once again, what in this life is perfect?